The ballroom went quiet the moment he stopped walking. My sister's Navy officer husband didn't go to the head table. He didn't greet the mayor or shake hands with the congressman in the room. He came straight toward me, the sister nobody in my family even bothered to introduce properly for years. And then, he saluted. Not the playful kind, not for show, a full, formal military salute. I heard forks drop. I saw my father's jaw lock, my mother's smile freeze midair. They had no idea who I really was, and in that moment, I decided they didn't deserve to. I'm Madeline Carter. I'm 34 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the kind of person people overlook. Not because I'm absent. I've shown up to every family dinner, every birthday, every hospital visit. Smiling, helpful, present, just never impressive, not in the way my family defines it. In the Carter family, success is only worth celebrating if you can hang it on a wall, wear it as a badge, or see it announced on the evening news. My dad retired as a decorated Marine after 22 years. My mom was a high school principal who believed in order, polish, and measurable achievements. My brother Jake wears a police badge. My younger sister Victoria, a foreign service officer married to Commander Ryan Hale of the U.S. Navy. Then there's me. I studied computer engineering, passed on the Ivy League to work for a boutique cyber defense firm, and before I turned 30, I was under federal contract doing threat simulations, infrastructure audits, and secure communications for defense agencies. Work that's classified. Work that, if I do it right, no one ever hears about. But when I say consulting at the dinner table, they hear unemployed. When I say federal contract, they think freelancing. My mother once asked if I'd ever thought about getting a real specialization. I smiled. Because how do you explain a job you're not allowed to talk about? I've bailed Jake out of trouble more than once quietly transferring funds when he was booked for a DUI 2 counties away. No one thanked me. 2 weeks later, he posted a selfie in uniform with the caption, "The grind never stops." I've pulled Victoria through panic attacks, ghostwriting speeches, and term papers while Ryan was overseas. She graduated with distinction and spoke about the power of resilience. My name wasn't in the speech. When my mom needed a heart procedure insurance wouldn't cover, I wired the money before she'd finished explaining. She never mentioned it again, but she sent Jake a framed photo of her recovery, which he posted with the caption, "Glad I could be there for her." I never did these things for recognition. I did them because I could. Because I thought love meant showing up, even when no one noticed. But in my family's story, I wasn't a cyber defense analyst. I was just the one with time on her hands. They built a version of me that served them, easy to diminish, easy to forget. At first, I told myself it didn't matter, but silence has a weight. And one day you realize it's pressing the air right out of your lungs. The edits started small. A missing group photo here, a conversation I wasn't looped into there. Once at a Sunday brunch, I heard my mother casually refer to the 3 of us kids. I almost thought I'd misheard her. I hadn't. Victoria's bridal shower came and went. I wasn't invited. The excuse? It's just friends. Later, I saw the photos online. Cousins, neighbors, half her office, and Ryan in full dress whites making a toast. When Jake was promoted to sergeant, there was a full cookout. Banners, speeches, a photo booth. He thanked Dad, Mom, Victoria, even his old football coach. I stood in the back, next to the recycling bin, holding a lukewarm soda. He never looked my way. It hit me one night while staring at the ceiling fan. I'd been cut from the family narrative entirely. Not forgotten, edited out. And worse, I'd let it happen. I kept showing up, kept making room, kept choosing peace over clarity, but peace built on erasure doesn't last. Then came the mix-up. One Tuesday morning, I was scanning through emails when I saw one from a catering service confirming headcount for Commander Hale's promotion dinner. It wasn't addressed to me. The email had gone to a coworker of Victoria's whose name was close to mine. I sat there rereading the subject line. There was going to be a formal dinner for Ryan. I wasn't on the list. I shouldn't have been surprised. I hadn't been invited to Victoria's baby shower either, or the housewarming, or the last 2 Christmas Eve brunches. Every time there was an excuse, wrong address, short notice, limited space. But this time it was deliberate, clean, silent. I didn't respond to the caterer, I didn't text Victoria, I didn't ask why. That Saturday night, while they were dressed in tailored suits and navy blue gowns, posing beside flags and plaques, I was at my kitchen counter in a hoodie, reviewing a classified report on vulnerabilities in naval communication systems. The same systems Ryan's unit would one day depend on. The irony was almost funny. 2 days later, the photos surfaced online. Ryan in perfect uniform, Victoria in a sharp navy dress, close enough for the headlines, my parents flanking them, beaming like a magazine cover. Jake in the background, red solo cup in hand, already mid-toast. The caption read, "Proud night for the Carter family, honor, courage, commitment." No mention of me. I thought I'd be used to it by now, but this erasure felt different. It was complete, polished. Like they'd rewritten the script so thoroughly I'd never been part of the story at all. And strangely, it didn't hurt the way it used to. It felt clinical, like reading a report about someone else. I closed my laptop, sat in the stillness, and realized something in me had shifted. They could pretend I didn't matter, but reality has teeth. And it was getting ready to bite back. The text came 2 days before the event. A group message from Victoria. Birthday dinner, Charleston Ballroom, 7 p.m., dress formal. No extra words, no warmth, just logistics. I stared at it for a long moment. The Charleston Ballroom was the kind of place where the chandeliers seemed older than the country itself. Polished marble floors, gold-rimmed dinnerware, the hum of quiet wealth. A stage built for speeches, the perfect place for my family's favorite pastime, displaying themselves. I almost didn't go. It wasn't pride, it wasn't defiance. I had a deadline, a secure communications protocol for a federal client. And in my world, deadlines aren't negotiable. But something colder, sharper, told me to clear my evening, not to celebrate, not even to reconnect, to see, to observe the theater I'd been written out of. I arrived early, parking in the far corner of the lot. Black dress, simple, clean lines, no jewelry, no explanations. If my family thought they knew who I was, tonight I wasn't going to help them keep believing it. Inside, the room was already humming, a sea of polished shoes and crisp uniforms. My mother moved between tables like she was hosting a fundraiser. She spotted me, blinked once, and crossed the room with a tight smile. "You made it," she said, like it was unexpected. Then lowering her voice just enough for only me to hear. "Just don't make this about you, okay? It's her night." I didn't answer. Jake appeared seconds later, a drink already in his hand. "Well, look who made it out of her apartment," he said, grinning for the people around him. Deadbeat made it after all. A couple of smirks. No one corrected him, not even Victoria, standing near the head table, perfectly composed. I slipped past them, found a seat at the back, close to the wall. From here I could fade into the blur of military jackets and champagne flutes. Dinner began. Laughter carried from the front of the room. Toasts were made. I ate quietly, my fork scraping against porcelain while the rest of the room roared with its own importance. And then the air shifted. The double doors at the far end opened, and Commander Ryan Hale stepped in. Dress whites, gold trim, ribbons in perfect formation. He scanned the room once, twice, and then his eyes locked on me. He didn't go to the head table. He didn't greet the mayor seated near my father. He didn't stop for Victoria's poised smile. Instead, he walked straight toward the back, toward me, and with each step, conversations began to falter. Ryan didn't rush. His stride was deliberate, each step clicking against the ballroom's polished floor. Eyes stayed locked on mine, steady, unshaken. By the time he reached my table, the room had gone still. The laughter, the clinking of silverware, gone. Even the band in the corner seemed to soften, as if the moment didn't belong to background music. He stopped just short of where I sat, straightened his posture, and then he saluted. Not a half-smile, casual wave kind of salute. A formal, regulation-perfect, textbook military salute, the kind you give to someone you respect or someone who outranks you. "Lieutenant Carter," he said, loud enough for every person in that ballroom to hear. A fork hit the floor somewhere behind me, someone's breath caught. I rose slowly, my chair sliding back against the wall. I returned the salute, crisp, minimal, then gave a small nod. "Commander," I replied. From the corner of my eye, I saw my father's arms unfold, not in welcome, but in confusion. My mother's smile tightened until it was barely a line. Victoria's poise cracked for the briefest second. Ryan's voice dropped just enough for only me to hear. "Didn't think I'd see you here," he said. "Neither did I answered. He gestured toward the empty chair beside me. "May I?" I nodded. And just like that, the balance in the room shifted. No one knew exactly who I was in that moment, but they knew I wasn't who they thought. Conversations picked up again eventually, but they were thinner now, clipped at the edges, interrupted by sideways glances in our direction. The easy, confident noise of the night had been replaced with something else. Whispers behind napkins, half-smiles that didn't reach the eyes. Victoria came over eventually, her composure carefully arranged like a mask she'd practiced wearing. She placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder, angled just right for anyone watching. "You made it," she said to him. "Wouldn't miss it," he replied, his gaze still forward, not looking at her. She didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge my presence at all, just squeezed his shoulder once and walked back to the head table. My parents didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. Jake made a weak joke about the cake being as dry as government work, but no one laughed, not even him. Ryan never explained the salute, he didn't have to. The act itself, in full view of the people who had spent years shrinking me down, did all the talking. When dessert was served, I stayed seated, letting the room rearrange itself around the quiet shift that had just taken place. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel the need to shrink or to justify myself. I just was. I left before the cake was cut. No polite goodbyes, no lingering at the door. The night air was sharp against my arms as I walked across the parking lot without a coat. In my car, I didn't cry, I didn't shake, I just breathed. For the first time in years, I had been seen, not explained, not defended, recognized. And the people who had built an entire mythology around my supposed smallness didn't know what to do with it. The text started 3 days later. First from Victoria. "So, what exactly do you do?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I locked my phone, slid it across the table, and kept eating my dinner. She wasn't ready for the answer, and I wasn't offering it anymore. A few days later, "Ryan won't tell me, but I think I messed up. If you ever want to talk." Not an apology, not really, but not the usual deflection either. I read it twice, then deleted it, not out of spite, but clarity. For years, I had bent myself into shapes that fit their comfort. Laughed when they made jokes, helped when they didn't ask, showed up even when I wasn't welcome. That night, when Ryan saluted me, something inside me broke loose. Not in anger, in understanding. I had allowed them to believe I was small because it was easier than confronting the truth. Easier for them, easier for me. But silence is a kind of permission, and I was done granting it. The next family group text came before Easter brunch, from my mother. "Brunch at our place Sunday," from the real adults. Like it was all a joke, like I hadn't spent 10 years quietly underwriting their disasters while they called me unemployed. I didn't reply. 3 days later, Victoria followed up. "Hope you can come. It would be nice to move past everything." I locked my phone again, because I wasn't interested in moving past things they refused to name. That Sunday, I didn't dress up. I didn't drive across town. I took a long walk through the old part of Charleston, past the riverfront and the weathered brick of the federal complex where, years ago, I'd submitted my first full threat response protocol. The building had no sign, no flag, just 3 armed guards and reinforced glass. No one outside knew what happened inside. But I did, and that was enough. Recognition didn't have to come with applause or family photos or speeches. Sometimes it came in the way a man in uniform stopped a room cold and lifted his hand in respect. And in that moment, everyone else had to confront the truth they'd been avoiding for years. Months passed. The family group thread stayed mostly silent, except for the usual photos from cousins, cookouts, birthdays, Jake at the grill, my father giving speeches. I didn't expect to see myself in any of them, and I didn't. Until one day, a cousin sent me a message. No greeting, just a single photo from the latest get-together. In the background, Jake was mid-joke, grinning toward a crowd. The caption from my cousin read, "Ryan shut down a joke about you, said she does real work." Nobody had anything to say after that. I read it twice, then I set my phone down and went back to my coffee. Not out of anger, out of certainty. For years, I had let them narrate me in a way that made them feel bigger, and me smaller. I told myself love meant making them comfortable. But comfort built on erasure isn't love, it's containment. That night in the ballroom, when Ryan saluted me, he didn't hand me power I didn't already have. He simply recognized it. And that moment didn't need explaining. It stood on its own. I don't show up now just to be tolerated. I don't explain myself in rooms that never asked real questions. I've stopped trying to belong in spaces that only benefit from me being small. My life is quiet, not invisible, full of systems I help hold together, teams who trust me, and a silence that no longer takes anything from me. Some legacies are loud, shouted into microphones framed on plaques. Some are whispered, passed quietly between the few who understand. And some walk into a room, lift a hand, and say nothing at all except, "Ma'am." Sometimes the loudest way to speak is to stop explaining yourself. You can spend years shrinking to fit inside someone else's version of you, or you can step out of it quietly and let your truth speak without words. Respect doesn't always arrive with applause or a headline. Sometimes it comes in the way someone looks at you and finally sees you. And when that moment comes, hold it. Don't hand it back. This is your life. Fill it with people and places where you don't have to be small to be loved. I'm glad you spent these minutes with me here, in this story. I hope it stays with you the next time you feel unseen. because you are more than what they say you are, and you don't need their permission to live it. This is sweet revenge, happy ending, and your ending can be just as powerful.